ask you all a question here. I'll ask you all a question here in a second. Appreciate knowing your backgrounds. I wasn't sure kind of what the mix would be, and more so how much you guys know about disaster preparedness, coalition, and whatnot. So I don't want to be redundant. And I'm hoping this can be more conversational than me just working through a slide deck. So feel free to interject. And I think with the group this small, don't feel like you have to raise your hand. Just speak up. That's not a big deal. So again, Joe Miller, I do have my master's of public health. I started out at the University of Minnesota many years ago. I don't need to say when, for my undergrad of public health. And then I moved up here, couldn't find anything really that I liked. Ended up being a preschool teacher for 5 years here in the area. And towards the end of that, decided to go back to school online through Walden University to get my master's of public health. And then while I was finishing that program and doing my capstone field experience, this job essentially it's morphed over the years, but I've been in this role since I finished my master's 18 years ago. So again, it's changed a little bit, but it was interesting how it kind of found me. I'm not working in public health per se, but I work alongside public health. So it's really kept me interested in what I thought I was going to be working in for the rest of my life. So yeah, 18 years here with well, it's now the coalition. It wasn't necessarily called that when I started. And then I also wanted to call out acronyms. I'm sure you all are well versed in your own set of acronyms. I am going to try to either, say what they are or avoid them altogether. So if I do use one or if there's one on my slides that you're not sure about, again, just call me out on it and we will talk about what it is. Oh, there we go. So you guys introduce yourself. I'm curious, a little bit of background on how you decided on this program, because it sounds like most of you are already working professionals, so you're back into school. And then also, as we talk about preparedness and planning, how would you say we can measure preparedness beyond like a compliant, just a regulatory compliance or a checklist, what that would mean to each of you. So I don't know, Angela, if you would like to go, or Katie, you can go first.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, I think I'd like the students to answer, but I just didn't know, Joe, if you wanted me to call on them or how you'd like to
Sure.
do it. So yeah, Angie, would you mind starting, sharing a
Sure.
little bit?
So, my background is I'm an X-ray tech by a trade, and I did 20 years in the cardiac cath lab, and then I moved into the a supervisor role in interventional radiology, which is where I'm at now. And I decided on this program for to keep going in my career, hopefully to be a manager and then possibly a director sometimes. And then how would you measure preparedness beyond compliance and checklists? I think you'd really have to get out to the different teams and talk with them and make sure that they are prepared and need and know what they need to do should that ever happen.
Yeah.
Great.
Becky.
So I got into the field. I started out like long time ago. I was in customer service for many years. Decided to go into culinary. COVID hit, and I thought, well, I need a more stable career. Started out with health information technology. Really liked it. Went on to health information management, and now I'm in my master's program. Um, and I'm with Angie. I think just like getting out there and conversing with your staff and stuff, and making sure that they know what to do and everything would give you a better picture than just compliance and metrics.
Yeah. Perfect. And Patrick.
So I was sort of torn between social work, getting my master's in social work, and my master's in healthcare administration, both which are offered by the College of St. Scholastica. My end goal is to be some sort of director role, or supervisor role, of a department, preferably working inpatient, or in a hospital setting.
Okay.
And I ultimately just decided that I liked this pathway a little bit more. Um, and how would I measure preparedness beyond compliance and checklists? Um, I think I I like to do more, or I would do more beyond um, the checklist by going out, well, sort of like Angie said, having conversations with different teams, and really getting a feel for it that way rather than just what's on paper. You can also use like drills, um, simulations, stuff like that.
Yeah. You guys all hit on, I mean, essentially I'll talk more about it, but that's what the coalition does. We get out and do practical ways of gauging preparedness within facilities, and the facilities do that internally as well. So thank you. That helps me a little bit more just know who I'm talking with. Um, so our objectives today, this looks really formal. Again, I don't want it to be. I want to do a little bit of overview of just general preparedness. It's a big topic. I hope to do a high level, call it a 30,000 level view, I guess. Again, the role of healthcare coalitions, um, the idea that all disasters start local is that third one. Really talking some real world examples, how we've done it here within our coalition in Northeast Minnesota. And again, want it to be a fluid discussion base. So you're not interrupting me. Stop me at any time. And I have a few questions built in from a healthcare leadership perspective, I guess, that can help guide our conversation as well. So I am I bold in assuming you guys have seen something like this, a preparedness wheel, if you call it. Everyone tweaks this a little bit, but I liked this one. It's pretty simple. Just shows the cycle of preparedness, response, and recovery. Obviously, preparedness is when you're planning, you're trying to think about what could be next, you're preparing your teams. Response, that's the what I call the sexy or the glamorous part that people, obviously the media sees, the public sees, really gets the attention. Recovery is something I would say we are getting better at planning for, but is often because the glitz and the glamour of the big response, whatever it is over. So people think the response is over, but really recovery needs to remain a part of that to get back to that setting the level setting of prevention and mitigation. So mitigating, what could we do differently? What can we change? Can we build something differently, change a structure, whatever it might be. And then you just kind of follow that loop through again. So really how I tie this to preparedness being an executive issue is that disasters do disrupt operations, finances, workforce, and reputation. So it becomes an executive issue pretty quickly, particularly when not handled well. Um, and then I've also found, this is, I guess, more experience-based, is executives, they set priorities, often delegating preparedness within a facility or an agency. But then when something escalates to more of a crisis level where it's a bigger issue impacting, the entire facility or whatnot, that's when you tend to see that executive engagement a little bit higher than just, maybe a generator misfired or something that's not going to meet up to the executive level. So the hazard landscape, we call it hazard vulnerability assessment, HVAs, really just looking at what do we need to be planning for. And this varies obviously everywhere. In Minnesota, severe weather is usually at the top of lists. That could be tornado, straight line winds, ice storms, power outage and infrastructure, infectious disease. Obviously, COVID hit that one pretty hard. So mass casualty and surge events, this one's interesting. Um, not easy, easier to think about. So you think the Annunciation shooting that happened in Minneapolis here not too long ago, that happened, and they're close to level one trauma centers, quick transport. Now you put that event in Ely, Minnesota. I always use Ely as my example because they're so rural. Um, And that looks drastically different. The response looks different. The resources look different. So a level one trauma center might be more prepared for that. So it's not as high on their hazard vulnerability, whereas someplace that just doesn't have the resources, not that they don't know how to respond, they just don't have the staff and the resources. And then, of course, different impacts for everyone. What impacts a skilled nursing facility is going to be very different than what impacts a level one trauma center. So just thinking through all of those. And so again, the hazards vary, but oftentimes it's the space, staff, and stuff. Those are kind of the things that we can work through and figure out. So as it comes to planning, we talk about our strategies being scalable. We want to keep it simple. So what used to be for years, I swear, like people were getting paid by the word to do their plans, like these beautiful binders full of plans. And when the crap hits the fan, is anyone really going to take a binder off the shelf? And no, no. So we've gotten a little smarter, I think there. Simple is better. A 2 to 3 page, checklist, response guide, whatever you want to call it, that really helps. If it's one RN on in the middle of the night, they can look at that checklist and at least start knowing some of the decisions that need to be made rather than a 100-page binder that overwhelms them and is not. So then role clarity, just really learning again in your facility who's going to do what, who's going to call 911, who is going to check on patients or residents, who is allowed to communicate with the press and with the public, with family members, kind of thinking through a lot of that stuff beforehand. Redundancy, obviously, power, oxygen, meds, those kind of things. You want to make sure there's some redundancy built into the ability, a reasonable ability. And then looking at regulatory compliance. So a lot of what drives emergency preparedness is the regulatory authorities. But we've really changed our mindset there too, I think, is to use that as a launching pad. Like, yes, we have to check the boxes to meet their requirements, but going further, using that as a launching pad for preparedness and plan writing and exercising within a facility. So it really can be the foundation for resilience rather than just a regulatory component. And then as we talk about plans, just really going through some of those core elements of what a strong plan looks like. I already mentioned the HVA, so just knowing what your hazards are gets you pointed in the right direction for how you might write a plan and exercise that plan. ICS basics are, how familiar are you all with incident command? Have you taken any training, know what it is, anything like that?
Well, when the ER gets full, and it's at capacity, then we go into incident command, which means all hands on deck. Leaders cancel all your meetings that you need to go to and to help out in the ED.
Yep, good example. Communication protocols, again, this is, I don't know what percentage, a high percentage of breakdowns in responses and even in our exercises comes down to communication. Whether that's the tactical communication goes down or it's rumor control or messaging the public. Saw this a lot during COVID. Miscommunication, rumor control, that kind of thing. And then staff drills. You talked about this a little bit in your introductions, but really knowing what staff is going to do what and then training to that. So it might be a department that does a drill. It might be the whole facility that does a drill, but really using that time. And this is another thing that's changed, I would say, since I started this position. We used to think when people heard the word exercise, it meant like a whole day long out of your office, not getting any work done. And what we've really found is even a 30-minute staff meeting, you can do a mini tabletop and call it a tabletop exercise, a discussion, whatever. Doesn't matter what you call it. You can work through a scenario, work through questions, and still know areas that are weak and could use a little additional training or attention. So really the idea that it doesn't have to be this big grand exercise for it to be beneficial for the people involved. And this was one of the areas I think Katie had asked that I cover. This is probably, well, this often gets confusion, and when the incident command post and the EOC are not delineated and separate, it's pretty much cause for chaos. So the incident command post, those are the people boots on the ground doing the work. It's the tactical, they're in the field doing it. The EOC, on the other hand, is supporting that event. So it ideally is located really nowhere near what's actually happening. It can be remote, and they're really providing the resources, the guidance. They are doing a lot of the communication and helping the incident command post know how to deal with the problem. So again, often confusion between these two, and I think our most recent event here, the wildfires in St. Louis County last summer. Was that summer already? Little bit of confusion there because these two sort of operated simultaneously from the same response trailer. So it definitely gets a little bit tricky if these two are not separate. So if you look at this in a hospital setting, the incident command post for an MCI is probably going to be your ER or somewhere right around there. And the EOC, in theory, is a conference room away from that. There's not people going back and forth between these two. Again, it can be virtual pretty easily now as well. So the idea that all disasters start local is essentially the progression. The next slide is a more visual representation of this, but everything starts local. So the city, whether it's the city, the county, the tribe, where something is happening, needs to try to solve the problem on their own first, and then it escalates from there. And we as a coalition, which I'll get into a little bit more, really start in a liaison role. We're not responders. We're not going to go out to a scene and help. That's what the first responders do well, and we're never going to get in the way of that. So this graphic I like a little bit better just because if you're a visual learner, it's easier than looking at the words. But again, the bottom, the gray area, that's where it's local. So it's a hospital that needs help. It's a skilled nursing facility that needs help. It's an emergency management department, one. And then when you get into a multi-facility, multi-jurisdictional, then it goes up into the region. And then if it can't be helped there, we escalate up to the state. So I'm going to launch from that into talking a little bit about the Healthcare Coalition in particular. And a coalition is not a coalition is not a coalition. So we all have similarities, but my perspective is going to be from here in Northeast Minnesota, which is the middle icon there, as you see. A little bit about federal funding. So post 9/11 and the anthrax attacks, what we learned many things, but one of them is our responses were quite siloed. So the police did what police did well, fire did what fire did well, but not a lot of, again, communication was huge with these events. And also learned that healthcare doesn't necessarily surge independently. So if St. Luke's in Duluth has a massive surge, it is going to have a ripple effect on the rest of our community. That's just how it's going to work. So the more we can work together, the better. And our federal funding for the coalition really started very hospital-based. That branched out then into healthcare, or the long-term care clinics. And then now we really focus on what they call the 4 pillars of the coalition, which is emergency management, healthcare, local public health, and EMS. So those are considered the 4 kind of staple partners of the coalition. And the one thing I'll point out, obviously, being federal funding, it's volatile right now, to say the least. But though we don't get a ton of funding. So the federal government gives it to the Minnesota Department of Health, and here in Minnesota, MDH then funnels most of it out into the 8 regions, the 8 coalitions. And while it's not a ton of money, if you think about the amount of people we work with and serve and exercise with and train with, if we were to divide that money out, let's say to each facility that plays, I mean, it's going to be dollars. It wouldn't make any sort of impact. But when we are able to keep it regionally and be that hub for training and exercising, it goes a lot further. So that's my plug for why federal funding in this case is definitely a good use of funds. Yeah. So this is how the coalitions break down in Minnesota. I'm curious, have you heard of or have you been involved with a healthcare coalition, either here or elsewhere? No. Okay. I just wanted to make sure I'm not like saying something you guys are completely aware of.
I guess, Joe, one thing I was wondering, is this something like, are coalitions something that has like, maybe there's more of them in the state over the last like maybe 5 years since COVID, or have they always kind of been around?
Yep,
These
they've always
coalitions.
been around.
Okay.
They definitely gained, I don't think traction is the right word. We gained the optics on us were higher since COVID.
Okay, that's maybe, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I think there's a discrepancy because preparedness and what we do, it's just not a visible thing because we don't respond necessarily. So it
Right.
kind of the behind the scenes work. And so then that leads to like, well, what are you really doing? Are you really doing anything? So yes, the optics have changed, I would say,
Okay.
Thanks to COVID.
Mhm.
Oh, that sounds weird, but
Yes.
yeah.
Okay.
So I will point out too, and I think I mentioned this a little bit later too, but look at the northern regions and how much of the state geographically we cover. We have the biggest region here in the Northeast, but Northwest isn't too far behind. And Central, I don't know what happened there when they were figuring out our regions, but I mean, that's like a big old puzzle piece in blue. And I would wager, Metro has more resources, of course. But I also feel like because we are so rural and remote, our people have to figure it out and they have to work together. So, uh, are we better prepared? Maybe not. I think we're definitely prepared because we're forced to work together. Just geographically, it doesn't work any other way when you're 45 minutes from the next facility. And so the Metro Coalition put out a video that really highlights coalitions well. So even though it's Metro, I'm going to play it here. It's still a good highlight of all the coalitions in Minnesota.
Tornadoes,
floods,
emergency, instant,
utility failure,
and unexpected. Cyber attacks. Don't know what's coming. Power outages. You don't know when it's coming. Work stoppage.
evacuation.
It's not a matter of civil unrest. Simply just have to be prepared. The Metro Health and Medical Preparedness Coalition is a collaborative of healthcare organizations from across the 7-county metro Twin Cities region. We work together to create a resilient healthcare system so that no matter what disaster or emergency comes our way, our healthcare facilities can continue to provide those essential services to our community. You really don't want to respond alone. The coalition is here to support you. Emergency preparedness is vast, and we need the expertise to understand all the nuances of the regulations. How do you really prepare? How do you make a plan?
The coalition has subject matter experts in a variety of fields, local EMS, public health, emergency management, and of course, healthcare.
It's always best to think outside of the box and get ideas that you might not have thought of. And so when you're working with other people, you get that opportunity.
Because of all of the experience from the members in the coalition, there's a lot of lessons learned, whether it's through real events or exercises, best practices that are shared.
We work together, train together, so we respond together.
The coalition can open up pathways for you to get the resources you need when you need.
if there is an emergency that occurs in our jurisdiction or in a neighboring jurisdiction, we're able to get information in a more timely manner as well as respond more collaboratively. We had a snowstorm last winter and a power outage at one of our facilities that didn't have a generator. And I knew we were going to be okay because the coalition was behind. We offer a lot of different trainings, educational opportunities, conferences to learn, as well as to network with your peers from within your discipline, as well as outside of your discipline. If you're looking for community and resources, the coalition is the place to be. You develop relationships, you understand the focus of other organizations and their capabilities. We all want to be prepared. And what the coalition provides is that additional layer of support. The coalition is your resource for anything emergency preparedness.
They are there for you for training. They are there for you in your biggest time of need.
You will learn more. You will be able to have better plans. You will be better off being a member of the coalition.
Yeah, I like how they put that together. And again, it's the same concept all over the state. I've already referred to the 4 pillars of who we consider part of the coalition. At the end of the day, it can be anybody, and a lot of times is anybody. But the 4 core members are hospitals, local and that should say and tribal health, local and tribal health departments, emergency management, and then EMS. So here in the Northeast, we have quite a conglomerate. I would add to that, long-term care has come up hugely. They make up a large part of our coalition. The local universities generally attend, and private partnerships we have found to be super beneficial. The power company oftentimes will come, and just that mutual invitation for bigger events that we can learn together, share is huge. I won't read through this, but as I'm trying to describe to people what I do, essentially most of what we do should be able to fall into these buckets: situational awareness, resource sharing, information sharing. A lot of information sharing and collecting, and that comes often by ways just of like a Teams call or a phone call. If somebody's experiencing an issue, they say, can we hear how our partners have handled this, or are they facing the same thing? We pull together a call. All we really do is moderate the call, ask the questions, take notes, and share it out. So it's just a good way for our facilities to be able to ask questions and get information that they need. And this is the other way I just describe people what I do. I say I consider myself a party planner. I don't consider myself a subject matter expert in much, but if you tell me what your problem is or what you're looking for, there's a good chance I can connect you to somebody who can help you, or come to your facility to train, or the next exercise we develop maybe, has a certain injects that are going to help our members. So really the collaboration piece, all of these things fall into the buckets I just showed you, really. But one of the areas with dwindling funding that we really like to highlight is it avoids the duplication of effort and maximizes our grants. So, local public health and emergency managers all have their own grant requirements, but there's oftentimes areas where we can come together and put together a training or an exercise that satisfies requirements for those different disciplines. So again, you're meeting your partners, you're understanding who brings what to the table, all while satisfying grant requirements. Training and exercising and templates is huge. We have quarterly coalition meetings here within the region, and we do a round robin, and people just share templates they're working on, plans they're working on, exercises they're conducting. Oftentimes leads to people sharing then, hey, you already have that template. Well, I'm not going to reinvent the wheel. So people share wonderfully. And really, again, it's just avoiding, like, why reinvent the wheel when somebody else has done it already. And then also very important that I talk about what the coalition is not. We don't necessarily have stuff. That changed a little bit during COVID when we were getting supplies from the state, but there's a couple coalitions that have a cache of some equipment, some PPE, but in general, we don't hang on to stuff. We are really there to connect people, facility, resources. So if, a couple facilities are really surging and cannot possibly place all of their patients, we can help figure out where those patients might go. And again, we're not doing anything with those patients. We're just connecting facility A and B to say, this looks like it might be a good match. Now you guys do the work to figure that out. We don't sell preparedness. We're definitely not a requirement. But I would say most people that are part of the coalition find the benefit for sure. Some of our challenges, I'm going to spend a little bit of time on this slide. Unrealistic expectations. It can be hard so a lot of our deliverables and things that come through the grant are kind of urban focused. So it can be really hard to modify them for rural. And as well as, I had mentioned there's more resources in urban areas, but the rural areas need to be just as prepared. So how do we kind of bridge that gap of making sure everyone is at a pretty level playing field for responding? Funding, obviously, up and down. Right now, obviously, with any federal funding is kind of, you don't know if it's going to be yanked away or doubled. It kind of just depends. And then also our funding formulas for the grants tend to be, this has gotten better, but it tends to be, it favors metro areas just kind of by the algorithms in which it's not really the fault of anybody. Like, how do you quantify how much to give to each area? So like when you consider how many beds a coalition has, obviously metro areas are going to have more hospital beds.
Joe, can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Do the participating healthcare organizations or counties or anybody, do they have to pay any type of fee to your coalition to belong?
No, it has come up many times, especially as we see our funding start to change. It's been a push to at least have the discussion. And we have, it hasn't gone too far. It's hard, like, to put that fee structure together. Like, what are you getting for X amount of dollars? So not yet, but it is definitely on the radar as an idea for sustainability purposes, really.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a very good question.
Do you guys charge for your education sessions or?
No.
Oh, okay. Wow.
No. No, everything we do pretty much is, last year we put on a training where it was a resident you went away for 2-3 nights to a resort. And we charged, it was a nominal fee, but that was more so just because we needed we needed a little bit of buy-in, because it was a high cost course. So we had to know these people were gonna show up. But it was, for what the class was, it was a minimal buy-in for the facility to see people. Yeah.
Okay.
Visibility, I had mentioned this already. We're fairly behind the scenes, which then means people don't know what you're doing, why it's important. And particularly until that bad day or bad weeks or months happen, we're under the radar. So that's just a nature of the beast. That's, again, not anybody's fault. It's just we are behind the scenes for the most part. Referral patterns differ from coalition boundaries, differ from system footprints. This one was really exacerbated during COVID. We have our neat little boundary that I showed you, but of course, Essentia Health, for example, is in for sure, 4 regions in the state. So that can get tricky. For the most part, I think it kind of works itself out. Where we saw it in COVID being an issue is sometimes the coalitions would handle things differently. We would divide money out a little bit differently. That was when we had tons of money, of course, flying at us for COVID. And Essentia, in one region would be like, wait a minute, our partners are doing this, and over here they're doing this. So again, nobody was really wrong, but when you do it differently, it lends itself to some struggles, like why are they getting this and we're not getting that? So and that's just, we're never going to be able to fix that. The referral patterns alone are different. We've done some changes with our hospitals. Riverwood in Aitkin used to be part of our coalition. And based on where they are in, like geographically and what the referral patterns were, it just made sense for them to join the Central Coalition instead. So we try to, do what makes sense for our partners and make sure we're maximizing the resources. Staff turnover, I'm sure you all are well versed in this because it seems like everybody's either understaffed or has new staff. We used to see this more in long-term care, skilled nursing facilities, assisted livings, and now we're seeing it more across the board. It's more global. It's definitely in the hospitals as well. You have early retirements. You have people who are just getting to normal retirement age. You have burnout. People want to leave the field. We saw that, are still seeing it from COVID, actually. And so what happens then is you have people who aren't familiar with your plans again. So if you have a lot of staff turnover, it's hard to go back to that exercising piece and make sure everybody knows what their role is, who to go to, who does what. So you're kind of starting over when you have too much of that staff turnover, which is just hard for people to stay on top of. So my question for you all related to this is, how should executives justify investments in preparedness when the return on investment is uncertain, unknown, or years out? Like, how do we bridge this gap of preparedness? We know it's important, but people are running out of money. Healthcare in particular is really facing some struggles right now. So, I'll open the floor. I'll shut up.
That's a tough one. I think because you have to have it. Like it's like an absolute need because there will be a time that you're going to have to need it. So, is there somewhere else you can cut and try to, you know, allocate the funds elsewhere or to the coalition? But it would be tough.
Mhm. I don't have a good answer for this either, by the way.
No, yeah. That's like the ever question that keeps coming.
Yeah,
There's just not enough money. And
right. Well, and we have found time too. I mean, even if we as a coalition, when we host a regional exercise, you're still, even if we put it on, we do all of the work, all the people, the facilities have to do is show up. It's still, you're paying their staff time to
Right.
be away from their position. A lot of times, again, in our region, that means a travel time. It's a whole day plus out of the office for a few hours of content. So yes. Any other thoughts on that before I?
Becky or Patrick, any thoughts?
Do you ever offer like remote classes, or are they all in person?
Yeah, well, again, probably a good thing that's come of COVID, I guess, is really trying to expand the virtual offerings. It's hard because, people are multitasking most of the time. I'm guilty of it as the next person. So yes, we definitely have leveraged the technology to do more of that. And we just have to. I mean, I don't think there's any way around that. I mean, even like look at your guys' class. You're all over the place coming in from wherever. And I'm guessing some of you wouldn't be able to do this if you didn't have that remote option. So yes, that's a good question. We do.
What do your services look like for like cybersecurity?
Yes. I meant to mention that in the HVA on the HVA slide. Um, that one is a tricky one. So yes, it's rising to the top of everybody's hazard list, of course, as it should. Um, but by and large, you have IT departments that are hopefully, working on that. Our niche we're finding, we think, we're working on that this budget period. So you have the Fairviews, the Essentias that they have robust departments and plans and people dedicated to that. So again, our smaller, critical access independent facilities, our skilled nursing facilities, we want to create some content for those smaller, maybe less supported facilities as it relates to cybersecurity. So we're kind of in the midst of figuring out what that looks like and what's going to be of value to them. Because I'm in no place to, I mean, I can hardly remember my password to, get into anything. But again, we know it's a need, so we work hard then to find somebody who can talk to our partners and take them through how to plan for that, both a cybersecurity plan, but then again, when something happens, how do you work through that?
Right.
Good question.
How about AI? Do you are you concerned that AI is going to take any positions away?
I don't think it's necessary in terms of preparedness and plan writing right now, today, in 2025. We see it as a good tool. In fact, at our last coalition meeting, my colleague and supervisor presented on how to leverage AI to write a tabletop exercise, or not just tabletop, write an exercise for you. So I don't know how much you all have used ChatGPT, but if you put in good questions, it gives you pretty darn good content back. So leveraging AI to help the plans, the exercising, as far as it, taking over, this is such a human, there's so many moving parts in a response. So I think AI can be a tool, it can be helpful. I don't see it totally taking over anything in this realm, but I could be way off base. All right, so I'm going to take us through a few examples of, first I'm going to go through kind of the bigger events that you all either probably were here for, you read about, you heard about. And then I'm going to go into some smaller but still significant things that we've done here in terms of helping our partners. So the 2012 floods. This was quite impactful for the Duluth area, but also a fair amount of our region. Carleton County, I know, was hit really hard. So some of the things we did during this is help develop situational reports to get out to the partners so that everyone knew what was going on, who was impacted, what the needs were. And in this case, we had a long-term care facility that needed to evacuate. And we helped identify what facilities might be able to take in some residents. So again, we're not doing the moving. We aren't, out in ambulances or anything, but we are connecting our partners to say, hey, we're in need and hey, we can help, and connect the two. And then the picture on the right, people often ask, like, what keeps you up at night? What is your, like, what's the worst thing that could happen? One of my top one or two is the evacuation of a nursing home, assisted living, a memory care. We've seen that done. It's just hospitals again have more for resources. They exercise a little bit more frequently and more robustly, but you have a group of generally elderly who are a little more frail, moving them is a bad idea. So you only want to do it if absolutely necessary. But I mean, you can see here, they're literally in a tractor. That's how he got them out. And everybody ended up being fine, quite amazingly. But anyway, that's kind of a sidebar. That is one of my like, oh crap moments is moving a population that's very frail, generally speaking. And we also helped, so local public health and emergency management were looking for evacuation centers. So people who needed resources, maybe couldn't go back to their home, needed help with something related to their home. We helped identify where those evacuation centers would be. How many of you know about the Husky explosion in 2018? Does that ring a bell for anybody? So that was across the bridge, happened in Wisconsin, so not in our area. But one of the caveats to planning and responding here is, of course, disasters don't have jurisdictional boundaries. So this occurred. It ended up being really not horrible and could have been absolutely catastrophic. So we were talking back and forth, mostly by text, actually, with our hospital incident command centers, and they were preparing to intake tons of burn patients. This then also activated our state burn plan. So regions and Hennepin, no, so regions and the other, I'm blanking on the name of the burn center in the metro. Anyway, it activated, so they were prepared if needed to take in additional patients. Our relationship with our county emergency manager here in St. Louis County, at least, is very strong. And because of that relationship, they invited us as the coalition to come right into their EOC, which it's not wrong. It doesn't happen often. And in this case, it ended up being a lifesaver. It saved tons of time. So we were able to go on the EOC, hear what some of the needs were. This was another one where we were trying to find long-term care beds because a nursing home in Superior was needing to evacuate. And then where this one got interesting was because we were part of the EOC, the county EOC, we were also part of the calls with at the time, the Duluth mayor. And because of the predicted winds and what was burning, they started talking about the evacuation of pretty much all of downtown Duluth, which included both of our trauma centers. Thankfully, talked them off the cliff to say, okay, wait a second here. And the winds happened to switch and all bets were like, it was fine. Literally the flip of a switch. So that could have been a very bad day evacuating, because if you evacuate the two Duluth hospitals, where are they going? Metro. How are they going to get there? So anyway, very good lessons learned. The hospitals got tons of practice. And at the end of the day, nobody died. There was one injury that I believe didn't even end up being that bad. And rumor control with this one was huge too. Somewhere along the way on social media, people were telling the public who were evacuating the zone in Superior to go to the mall. We don't know where that came from. I don't think we ever learned where that came from. But working very hard to help squash those rumors. And then the last big one I'm going to cover is COVID-19, which we're all probably sick of talking about. But coalitions were quite involved in areas that we never, if you would have told me that I was going to have anything to do with vaccine or monoclonals, I would have said you are off your rocker. And we ended up playing quite an integral role, especially at the beginning when there just wasn't enough vaccine to meet the demand. So we again worked with our coalition. We would meet together with our members and say, this is how much vaccine we're getting. This is how we think it's fair, as fair can be, to distribute it. And we just did it. So I would say that was a little bit out of our normal span, but we figured it out. And because we have good working relationships with our members. They trusted us. We also did a lot of rumor control and information vetting. We try to protect our members, and this became very evident in COVID when all the chatter at the state and the national level, things changed by the minute. We didn't immediately push everything on to our members. We tried to do it at a little more reasonable pace because by the time we emailed or had a call with them, the information changed again. So just that conduit between our local facilities and the state, it worked as well as it could, I think. So yeah, those working relationships, again, they trusted us. So it's not like we were, and it also took the systems out of it for a little bit. So somebody couldn't say, well, Essentia is giving all of their hospitals the vaccine, but nobody else is getting any. So we were that neutral. We have no, I don't care if Luke's or Essentia gets it. I just want it getting into arms. So yeah, that was quite a time. And my question, I don't want to, yeah, we're running low on time. So what ethical obligations do healthcare executives have to staff versus their patients during emergencies? So you have the demand of your staff, you have the demand of the patients. What are some of those ethical considerations? Anybody have any ideas?
How about like religion in regards to vaccines and that kind of thing?
Mhm.
I would think that would be
Absolutely.
a big one.
Yep. Very good. I mean, we saw that, I think we've seen it, for years and years, but it was highlighted in COVID.
Yeah.
Even now, I would say lots of stuff going on with vaccines in general. Information, misinformation.
Well, and with COVID, like who gets the shot and who doesn't?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was, oh, sorry, Joe. I
no,
was
go
just going
ahead.
to say the shot or who doesn't get the shot. But then also I was thinking like who gets the bed or who doesn't get the bed.
Yes. Yep.
Or the respirator was the big
Yes.
one of the
Yeah.
big ones.
Yes.
Yeah.
And yes. So and everybody, not everybody, there's different ways of approaching that. So we have a large Native American communities here in our region, and they want their elders to get all of the resources, where other people are like, no, let's give the healthy 30-year-old event. Well, again, nobody's necessarily right or wrong based on what your beliefs are, but we do need to come up with a way to streamline some of that. Yeah, it can get tricky. All right, and then just some of the smaller, we have found as a coalition in terms of response, when we do need to respond, it's the smaller incidents that are kind of our bread and butter, I would call them. It's us helping or being part of the solution to keep things from escalating. So on here, I have the Larson's Commons fire. It was a senior living apartment living, and there was a fire. They needed placement. Some of them were a little more medically complex. Some of them were they're all independent to a degree, but some had complex medical needs. So helping again find where can these folks go to be safe and to live until they can get back in. The middle one there, they had a large GI outbreak and couldn't keep up with the laundry. Everybody was getting sick, so we were able to get them PPE for their staff and also laundry bags to. It sounds terrible, but we call it the poop bag incident. But getting them enough to be able to stay open and serve their residents and keep everybody there, not having to evacuate, not having to shut down, anything like that. And again, those are minor things. We were able to procure those and they made it. It was tough for them, but they made it through. And then the third one is the movement of PAPRs or respirators. We had a facility, a long-term care up the shore that was on the brink of having a major staffing crisis. And the reason was 2 or 3 of their folks couldn't be fit tested for N95s for various reasons, couldn't wear them, but they didn't have any PAPRs. So these people could stay working safely for them and the residents if they could have PAPRs. So we found a facility that had extra PAPRs and got them to the facility that needed them, kept them up and running. Again, you're not evacuating, you're not shutting down, you're not in a staffing shortage then because you can keep those people on the floors doing their job. So everybody wins. And again, it keeps it from escalating to a much bigger issue. And then I'm going to end with a CEO from Community Memorial Hospital, and he highlights the importance of coalitions. He's been one of our standout executives before, during, and since COVID. He's still there. Pretty sure he's knocking on the door of retirement, but anyway, I will.
I'm Rick Steele, I'm CEO of Community Memorial Hospital, located. And I wanted to share a few thoughts about the coalition and how beneficial it's been for their CME clinics for nursing homes. We've always found them to be a valuable partner to staff there, but really the last few years of the pandemic, the resources they brought, the collaborative spirit, the shared information, were really invaluable. We're a small rural organization, we're independent, doing the MHA organization. And sometimes you can feel a little bit on an island. You do partner, collaborate with other healthcare providers, public health, other entities, and really during that week, I don't know what we would have done without the coalition's help in everything from helping to ensure that we have adequate vaccine supply, which became very important for a couple of years of that. To get the latest information on what was going on across the region, the state, and the country. And then sometimes it was just invigorating, counseling technical outlets as we were all dealing with the worst disaster any of us could have ever died protecting today. The challenges continue today. In some ways, they're more daunting, very different than the face of the pandemic. But healthcare is very difficult right now. Never been more difficult than this for me last. And so I really appreciate all of the people at the coalition to help support us. So I know I can pick up the phone or shoot an email for simple questions to the most complex thorny issues, and they are there for us. And I can't tell you how much that means to me and to the organization. So I am very grateful that we get to work with the talented people that we do. Thank you.
Yeah, always nice to end on a high note. Like I said, he's been one of our standout executives that understands the importance of preparedness. So we have appreciated working with him. I had additional questions if we had time, but we do not. But I would entertain any questions from you all to wrap this up. I want to be respectful of your time as well.
I have a couple.
Yeah.
Are there coalitions in every state?
Yes.
Okay.
They look very different. Like North Dakota, for example, is one coalition.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes it easy.
Well, yeah, easy.
Maybe.
I don't know if it's practical. Maybe easy.
Depending on where you are or where you live.
Yep.
And then how do you work with like Red Cross and stuff? Are they part of your resources for like disaster relief and stuff like that?
Absolutely. Yes. They are an integral part. They come to all of our meetings, trainings, very collaborative. Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Good question.
Yeah. And then I didn't know before I read on the website that the fines for seatbelt use are credited to EMS relief account.
Yes.
That's super interesting on the Arrowhead EMS website.
Yes. Yeah. And I didn't, my apologies. I didn't get to more of the Arrowhead EMS umbrella. So I'm one part under that umbrella. Could have talked a little bit more about that, but yes, seatbelt funds. Yes, which are going, well, they tend to go down. I don't know if that's people are actually wearing their seatbelts or they're just not getting caught.
Yeah. I just hadn't known. I didn't know that.
Sure.
Joe, how many people does the coalition employ?
right now we only have two, well, it's 1.5 of us. So I'm the only full-time coalition person, and then my boss splits his time between coalition activity and EMS, regional EMS activity. Of course, that's waxed and waned too. We've had up to 4 FTE. Like we had somebody that was able to work just with our long-term care partners, which was amazing, and
Sure.
give them more attention. And we just don't have that anymore. We don't have the funding for that. So it's waxed and waned.
Okay.
Mhm.
So are you on call 24/7 then, basically?
Yeah, I mean, yes, I don't sleep with my ringer on, but if
Yeah.
somebody's trying to call me, they'll eventually get a hold of me. Yeah, and most of the stuff that we've dealt with starts in the middle of the night. Ironic. Well, it's never, at Wednesday at 2 p.m. when
Right.
everybody's working.
Right.
Nope, you're
But
always
yeah, we try to stay available for anything that comes up. Yep.
Wow. That just makes me appreciate you even more to think that there's 1.5 of you doing this.
Yeah,
Crazy.
it's a bummer. We had quite a nice team, and
Yeah.
just isn't that way anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, good. Any other outstanding? I know it's 2 minutes after.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
All right. Well, Joe, it was so great to have you tonight and wonderful to meet you, and I look forward to working with you in the future. I hope we can make
Yeah.
this an annual thing. So
Yes, absolutely. Good luck to all of you, and enjoy your upcoming break. Aren't you gotta be soon, right? That you're.
yeah. Yeah.
I didn't even
Tomorrow's
think
the
about
last day
that.
of the term, and then then they get a nice break. So
Good. Well, enjoy it, everybody. Do something
Thank you
relaxing.
so much.
All
bye, Joe.
right. Thank you. Have a
Thank
good
you,
night.
Joe.
So.
You
Yeah.
too.
Bye-bye.
All right, students. So how are you guys feeling on your final papers? Do you have any questions or any concerns?
No, I just have to wrap it up.
Okay.
I submitted mine.
I was going to say, I know one of you submitted it. I haven't really looked. So good for you, Becky. That's great.
Well, we'll see what kind of grade I get. Very interesting.
And when is it due? Is it due Friday?
Friday.
Friday.
Yeah.
Is it Friday or tomorrow?
Well, I think technically tomorrow, but it's fine if you turn
Okay.
it in Friday, you guys. I'm not going
Okay.
to deduct any points. I'm probably because I likely won't grade them till Monday. So
Sounds good.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I know last time we talked a little bit about your spring courses. Any other questions come up from any of you? Okay. All right. Well, I'm just going to wish you guys all a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And I hope you have wonderful break and get, come back rejuvenated.
Thank
Yeah.
you. You too.
Yeah, I'm
Thank you.
looking forward to it. But
Yeah.
please know, you guys, that if anything comes up over break, I'm checking my email all the time. So don't hesitate to reach out to me and or Laura. She might take a little time off, but she'll be around. So, all right.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. See you
Thanks.
guys.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.